IDW Sonic Tails' 30th Anniversary Special. We see Sonic standing on the wing of the biplane again, telling Tails that Flicky Island's straight ahead. Why does he feel the need to say that when Tails would be able to see it? It serves a purpose for the audience, but why would he state the obvious? Tails does as well. At least it's interesting that he's wearing goggles, like it's the OVA, but since he almost never does that, it makes me think that he tried it out this once and then decided that it wasn't necessary because Sonic never complains about bugs flying in his eyes, and he ditched it for how it looked. If anyone should be wearing goggles, it's Sonic, because what if his reaction to a bug flying in his eyes caused them to fall off the plane? Sonic wants to explore the island again because he thinks it's the best vacation spot for them. I don't see the point of exploring if he already explored it all. It'd be more believable if he came here to follow Eggman, but that'd be way less creative. I like that Tails references that he brought a bunch of mint candy because it references the fact that it's his favorite food. I can't remember the last time that was mentioned in canon. I guess this means Flickies can eat everything he can because they're sentient birds. Because it'd be uncharacteristically dumb of Tails to be wrong about this and bring them something bad to eat. They're otherwise shaped like regular birds. You'd think that'd mean they have a similar biology to birds, no matter how smart their brains are. Sonic complains because there aren't any Flickies, when usually they're all over the place, so they get suspicious. It would be interesting if someone other than Eggman was here, especially since they've already been here. This isn't even the first time in canon that they revisited Flicky's Island. That happened in Fleetway too. Tails states the obvious that the crystal formation around the flower doesn't look natural. He notices that the rails weren't always there, and naturally because of the rails, he assumes that the island's been attacked by a Wendy witch cart. Thank goodness it's not Eggman. But it would have said Wendy witch cart instead. I'd like to remind you I don't pay much attention to the covers because I don't want to be spoiled on anything. And Sonic doesn't know what he's talking about. You'd think he would have told Sonic about Tails' Sky Patrol already to brag. I guess the reason he took so long is that he was worried Sonic would think he was making it up. That has to be it. But he's not early Archie Sonic. I wish Tails said which adventure Sonic was on when he went on the Tails Sky Patrol adventure. Why would it be in character for him to go exploring on his own as a fun thing to do? He'd be in his lab. I expect him to watch TV or play video games before taking the risk of exploring on his own. Of course, Tails doesn't explain why he was able to fly non-stop in Tails Sky Patrol, so that's a shame. Again, Sonic's naturally too impatient and interrupts him by running away. It makes me wonder if the usual IDW Sonic is out of character, because he's more focused on being laid back and weirdly idealistic instead of the trademark classic Sonic impatience. The black bear looks absolutely ridiculous. Why was he drawn to be so short? Same goes for the one to the right of him. The birds were trapped in crystals. Presumably air-permeable crystals. Are the Wendy's going to put them in badness of their own style or use them for their own magic? And while the bunny's bored by this, the wolf's happy about it for some reason. I wish it was explained why they're working for it because it makes no sense. It makes me grateful that the reboot explained that she's brainwashing them. Here I have to assume she's paying them a lot, and they don't care who they're working for. It'd be pretty lame if it was never explained why she was capturing birds, when she's already an all-powerful witch, so what could the magical birds do for her? Is she such a weak witch that she can't open up portals like they can? Sonic spin attacks the bear, but I don't get to see him actually impact him, so it removes any catharsis from it. Too bad, because his design is unbearable. Then a villain does the smart thing and traps Sonic in a crystal. It's sorta nice that Wendy's being used again instead of Eggman, and since I tend to hate most of the new villains as one-dimensional monsters who usually have terrible designs anyways, I guess the new comics couldn't be trusted to make new villains. So Wendy's better. But I'm really not impressed at seeing inferior looking cutesy designs for minions when we already saw them come back perfectly in the reboot. Speaking of inferior to the reboot, I'm immediately annoyed at how Wendy insists on talking rhymes. First off, nobody would do that. It'd be too much effort and just cause complaining. Second, you'd think that since she's a witch, talking in rhymes would increase the odds that she'd cast a spell by accident. The wolf thanks her for the help, and the bear is even more annoying by calling his own teammates useless for no apparent reason. She doesn't have to outright yell at them to get her more birds. They already knew they had to do that. Why is the Tails anniversary story just reusing old characters and settings instead of being something exciting? And why is she dragging Sonic away trapped in the crystal? Logically, she'd kill him. If she wants his magic power, she'd just take it already. Or she'd brainwash him on the spot to take advantage of him. Or erase his memory and make him think he's our minion at least. Or shapeshift him. But maybe she can't do those two things. I already saw Sonic get trapped in a crystal by Wendy in the reboot. Tails looks scared before deciding to help. Then, as if the story wasn't confusing enough, Tails explains that in 3D Blast, he and Knuckles helped find the Chaos Emeralds, which blatantly contradicts the fact that in the game, Sonic used them to enter special stages and retrieve them himself. So this is establishing that the game happened differently in IDW continuity. It's interesting. I like that they were helpful. Tails pulls on a circular thing in a big crystal that was conveniently there for no reason so that it could free the Flickies. It'd be more believable if he spin attacked the crystals apart. Tails tells the Flickies to help him find his way around to the island. Then Tails flies behind the wolf and grabs him. Tails could have dropped him from a high height, but because he was too much of a softie, he had time to whistle, and a green light on his machine beeps, so he threatens Tails, but then a whole page is wasted on Flickies in various places singing, and their whistling causes his vehicle to move around and have him smacked to the floor. All because of the unlikely fact that he had a vehicle that responded to whistles. Of course that could be taken advantage of. At least the three villains have distinct personalities, as in one personality trait each aside from being evil, but they're still one-dimensionally evil. I don't respect them enough to look up their names. Tails compliments the Flickies, and Tails dodges him after he runs at him lamely spinning his fists and making a pathetic noise. He's a complete mockery of the character. He ends up bounced around uncontrollably by springs. There's no reason Tails, a good guy, would call his plan a master plan. He says he'll need the vehicle for later and tells the birds to hold on to it. The bear intimidates the birds into walking to a bag and Tails jumps on his head, but again, we don't actually see the impact with it. So what? And somehow, Tails says he's bounced off softer badniks. The only way this would make sense is if his head only looks organic and he's actually a cyborg. Tails somehow talks as if he's got an unhealthy amount of anger when he's justified in being mad at someone attacking him. Then he tells the Flickies to swarm him and to get feathers in his mouth. He puts his vehicle at full speed and Tails distracts him by saying it was predictable, which is probably why he didn't have time to keep himself from driving into the tube and getting trapped in it. And lucky for Tails, the glass was conveniently soundproof. The bunny girl fires a missile to threaten the Flickies. Tails tells the Flicky to take a metal thing and fly away to the others. She sees Tails and finds out she's out of missiles. And because there's so much fog in the room, Tails isn't seen and messes with the wiring after opening a panel on it confusingly easily. So her vehicle drives off a cliff. Tails reveals he made some inventions and he approaches the witch who still hasn't explained why she's kept Sonic alive. Tails moves around the rails using something, and all of her projectile attacks with the wand miss. Then he fires Carrot and they somehow magically free Sonic, melting the crystal away. At least it sort of tries to be realistic because he says his arm went to sleep in there. She has some awkward phrasing by saying crystal hunk. And when Sonic predictably dodges all of her thrown attacks, she says 2 against 1 isn't fair and takes off. Once again, the comics made a complete mockery out of her. I'm pretty sure she wasn't cowardly in response to being completely outnumbered in the reboot. It's surprising that when Tails asks Sonic if he's alright, he actually admits that his ears are ringing, when he doesn't have to. He says she's getting away, and Sonic actually admits some respect for Tails indirectly, leaving it up to him. Tails uses Wendy's green magical artifact to trap her in Crystal. I guess she put magic in it when she has magic herself to save on magic. Is she always going to be in the crystal? If so, she'll die. If he knows that, that'd be out of character, so maybe he's planning to have her taken to prison. But she'd clearly just break out with her magic. I have to assume she can't move her hands enough to use magic to get out of the crystal. So she wouldn't break out of prison if her hands were trapped in the crystal, but the rest of her was freed. Sonic freed the Flickies, gets thanked for saving the day, even though Tails could have done that, and he could have done this at any time. With that, the story ends. This issue is by Ian Flynn. I wish that Wendy's minions didn't look so awful. It was cringeworthy to see them get made a mockery of. It makes me feel like it wasn't worth bringing them back. It's nice to see Wendy come back, but it would have been actually creative for her to have different minions. It would have been better than seeing these minions get made a complete mockery of with the way they look. This was supposed to be a Tails anniversary story. And while I love that he saves the day by constantly using his brain, so he was the highlight of the story, I feel like the character deserves better than a story where we just go to the same setting we've already seen multiple times, and he has to deal with villains he's already faced. I thought this would be a new story. We've already seen Sonic get kidnapped by Wendy Witchcart. Why did he even go to an island with no one on it for vacation anyways? It's obvious a hotel where they'd be catered to and get to buy delicious food would make a much better vacation spot than an island they already explored. And of course, there were a lot of plot holes.